Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We're so excited that you're joining us today. Ashley, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited to chat with you,
Me
as always.
too. Me too.
I know
So,
you can't see us, but if you're listening to the podcast, but Stephanie and I both showed up wearing denim shirts today because we're twinsies.
we didn't we did not plan this.
We did not.
But I love it. In fact, it's funny. I was wearing a different outfit, and then I changed when I got home, and I was like, today's a denim day. So anyway, I
Oh,
think
that's so funny. I love it.
it's so funny. Okay, let's dive in, Ashley. So
Yes.
the journal prompt that we are publishing in our official Connection Experiment journal is as follows. And I think we might riff off of a little bit. But the journal prompt we're going to talk about today is reflect on how you can connect your innate sense of rhythm with learning. Nope, I screwed that up, Ashley. I'm so sorry. Can you edit
You're
this out?
fine.
Can you edit that out?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's also, we can just, no worries.
Okay.
I mean, now I'll edit it out.
I
But yeah.
guess well, maybe we shouldn't edit it out because we're because isn't this whole thing about not editing things? Okay, so
Yeah.
thanks, friends, for your patience. Um, we're not going to reflect on our rhythm, and we're not going to edit this out because you need to see the process. Okay, what we're actually going to talk about, though, is the journal prompt that we were actually going to talk about is write as much as you can about your first musical performance. Reflect on where you were, who was there, what it felt like. Get as specific
Okay.
as possible and let this be entirely open-ended. So you can take this at face value, talk about your first musical performance if you can even remember it, which I don't know if I can, to be honest. But let's just reflect on a musical performance where either we can remember it and what it felt like, or where you felt the most connected, the most embodied, just the most communicative through the art form of music. Let's just see where you go with it. Open ended.
Okay. I'm gonna take it, yeah, in the direction of like a performance that was just so memorable. I'm gonna talk about that one. So, when I was in college, I played a lot, or I performed a lot. My teacher was very into like perform until you get comfortable feeling uncomfortable, which was great because I did, and it was a great opportunity to like essentially face my fear all the time. And so I was competing, and in general, competitions were not moments of connectedness for me. Competitions were moments of like fear, and then also like trying to amp myself up as much as possible to like be able to do it because it felt so scary. So usually competitions involved a lot of like stomach medication so that my stomach wasn't upset, and like trying to breathe and trying to pump myself up and like give myself pep talks so that I could do it. And I didn't feel super connected to myself or to the audience or to the pieces that I was playing oftentimes when I was competing because I was so nervous because there's literally people judging you. So this one competition though was an exception. I was playing, and I think I don't it was at a so I did my undergrad at Montana State University in Billings in Montana. Shout out to Dorothea Cromley, the best piano teacher in the entire world. And we were at a competition somewhere in the state of Montana, and I think it was the state MTNA competition. And I don't remember, like I can remember the room exactly, and I can remember the recital hall that I was in, but I can't remember which school it was at, so it doesn't matter. I'm sorry. But I was playing my program, and I don't remember everything that I played, but I remembered like there was a Prokofiev piano sonata that I was playing some movements of, and a Haydn piano sonata that I was playing some movements of, and everything was, I was in the zone, like it was just going well. And I loved the piano. It was always scary when you show up to compete or to play somewhere and you have no idea what kind of instrument you're gonna get. And thankfully, like usually the standard for competitions is that you'll get like 10 or 15 minutes in the room, like before you have to compete most often. And so I did, and I was fully inspired by the piano, and I think that that gave me like a huge confidence boost because I was excited to play on the piano. And so when I got to the competition, I was feeling it. Like I was feeling very, very connected to the music. There weren't a lot of people in the room. I could see the judge out of the corner of my eye, which usually would make me feel really nervous because it was hard not to like tune in to what they were doing and like listen to the pencil on the page and like try to overanalyze while you're playing. Like, what are they writing? Are they writing good things? Are they writing bad things? Da, 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 da. And then, of course, when you're thinking about all of that, like, you're not giving your best performance. But I could see him out of the corner of my eye, and he just, like, had a vibe that was very relaxed. And I felt really good about the piano, and I was able to connect to the music. I was able to connect to, like, everything inside of me that I wanted to express. And what was so amazing about it was that I felt really great about the performance. By the time I got to the last piece, usually these competitions, you're playing for, like, a certain amount of time and they don't have time to hear everything, so they'll just like stop you and they'll just maybe start you in the middle or like, you know, jump you around. And I got to my last piece and he asked for it, and I knew like there was no way that I had time to play the whole thing because it was like a 7-minute piece, and I think I probably had like 1 or 2 minutes left. But I started the piece as though I would play the whole thing, and I was like, I feel great, I'm just gonna go for it, I'm gonna completely disregard everything, and I'm just gonna like connect to this piece of music. And I did, and he never stopped me. And midway through the piece, I realized like, oh my God, I'm way over time. And I kind of like did tune into him a little bit, and I could see him just like sitting back in his chair, not writing anything, with a big smile on his face. And it was just amazing. It was just great because like the smile on the face was the cherry on top of an already amazing experience. Like whatever happened in that competition, I would have been so happy with how I performed. But then the fact that like I did see, you know, him enjoying that piece and letting me play over time. I think because he was enjoying it as much as I was, that was pretty spectacular. And then I did win, which was awesome. But I think even if I didn't, it would have been a point that I would remember, because it was one of the rare occasions when I felt like I was under so much pressure in a competition and I was able to not let that get to me and just go for the music.
Wow, what an incredible story. I love that.
Thanks.
That's awesome. What was that? It was the MTNA competition?
Yeah, it was one of the state level of the MTNA competition.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like it's just the fact that you were able to see that smile is also just such a gift, you know? I mean, being in the zone when you're performing and then being able to be that aware of your surroundings to notice that he's, you know, your audience, your judge is smiling at you. There's just so much to learn from that, I think, too. It's like what we consider judges, I don't know, it just kind of flips that idea of a judge on its head, too, doesn't it?
Totally. Well, and I think it's interesting to think about, like, if I had not felt so connected to my performance before I saw the smile, like, it would have been meaningless, I think, because if I would have, you know, blown it in my own mind or not really, like, held true to myself or to what I was trying to express, I don't think the smile would have meant as much. Whereas because I was already feeling personally so good about it, I think that's what really made the difference. Because that's where I think we can get a little bit caught in the wrong with performing, is like leaving it up to like external praise and external feedback on our performances, because really we have to go with our own selves on our performances in music and in everything in life, really.
It's so true. And I think that it's great for our listeners to hear that even in these really intense, high pressure situations, you can have really authentic, beautiful, connected moments, right? And I think that that's what we try to cultivate in Connection Experiment, but that's more of like a philosophy, right? You can carry with you regardless of how you do music. So if you're doing competitions, great. If you're playing for yourself, great. Everything else in between, also great. But if you're connecting to yourself, letting go of the results, and trying to connect with your audience and letting it all kind of out on the field, you're going to usually have results like yours, right? And I think it's cool that you had such a positive experience in such a high pressure situation where a lot of people don't generally have that kind of experience. So, and I think that you backed up the story with like enough detail that people really realize how, just full picture, like, you know, it wasn't just that you had a great performance, or just that the judge was relaxed, or just that you won, or just that you had a good day, or you liked the piano. It was like everything kind of like pulled together because you were okay with you, it sounds like. So I don't know. I just think that's really, really awesome.
Thank you. Thanks. What about you? What is, you know, the most that you can remember about either your first musical performance or a performance?
I think I'll just take this direction in what is the first musical performance I remember that I felt really proud of. So, I think that I've had a lot of different, I don't remember my first ever musical performance. And I think that I have generally felt pretty high strung when it comes to performing in general. So I've always been sort of a high anxiety person when I perform, and that's been a part of me since I was very young. But I remember the first performance where I really felt like, oh, I'm like really proud of that. And the first time was my graduate recital, and it was just one of those things where, kind of similar to checking the boxes of your performance, where I had done all the work and I had over prepared, and leading up to it, it was like it was so much work, so high stress, and just so much preparation goes into pulling off a full concert of memorized classical music, especially when your degree hangs on whether you play it from memory basically perfectly or not. And I think that, like, leading up to it, I was like, obviously very fearful that I would have a similar situation that I'd had in the past, but I also realized that, you do the work. It's kind of like, the therapy where if you're afraid to fly and you go to counseling or therapy and you talk about, okay, here are the things you need to overcome, and then once you overcome it in the session, now we're going to like take you up into a plane and you're gonna work through those fears there in the plane. And I had done all the work at that point, that needed to happen in order to then put it into action, right? And so I felt like it was that moment in time where I was like, okay, I've done the work. I understand that this is really overwhelming, but I've done the work, and I need to be okay with whatever happens, and I need to let this just be for me. And I remember, like, the whole day I just sort of took the time to run and drink a bunch of chamomile tea and stretch and breathe and, like, just basically envision myself being not successful, but envisioned myself being like present, peaceful, and like committed. And it was just honestly like the first musical performance where I felt so proud of myself, and I think that a lot of it is just attributed to like me doing the work and then surrendering the results. And that I remember that was like really the concoction that allowed for me to step onto the stage and say, like, whatever happens, I'm good with it. And I think that that's what I try to carry into my performances now. And since I had a taste of it, I was like, wow, like, okay, like there are so many directions that a performance can go, obviously. And no matter how much hard work you put into it, it really is sort of like, game time is game time. You're going to do whatever you can to do the best that you can, but ultimately you do need to surrender those results. And for me, it felt like such an impossibility to be able to perform classical music from memory with accuracy. And I did. I did it really beautifully. And it's one of the only times, I mean, I don't really perform classical music anymore, like, at least not for audiences. But I think
You don't
that,
just like for fun memorize hour-long recitals?
yeah, I know. I mean, if I do perform classical, it's like gonna maybe be one or two pieces, and likely with the music. But it's nice to know that you can do it, right? But the bottom line is that I just am so grateful that I had that first positive memory around doing something that felt so impossible for so long. Because obviously I'd done it with recitals, other performances, but I hadn't had that feeling of saying, I know I've done the work, and now I'm going to trust myself and surrender the results to my higher power, the source, whatever it is you want to call it, the universe, just something bigger than you.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just something, yeah, that I try to hold on to, is remembering that that's possible every time I perform. And you can have smiling judges everywhere you go, and you can create these situations based off of, checking in with yourself first. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm proud of you too. And I think I love what you just said. Like, you can have smiling judges wherever you go. Because I was gonna say, as you were talking, like, really, I mean, yes, okay, there's a very practical side of like, you do have to do the work and be prepared. And if you did the work and you are prepared, surrendering to like whatever happens and allowing it to be what it is, I think is such a powerful thing, because it does us no good to like beat ourselves up about performances. If we, can keep a clear head and say, like, objectively, what went well, what didn't go well, what can I learn from, what could I do differently next time? Like, yes, that is absolutely beneficial. But if we're being a judge, as a judge of ourselves, hopefully we can always sit back and smile and find those good things, because it's those good things coupled with the things that we might need to fix that are going to help us continue on and actually make that progress. I have never seen anybody make progress from sitting back and telling themselves how awful they are, or from berating themselves, or from like, you know, telling yourself all those terrible things that you did and not using them as an opportunity to grow or learn. I think that's a big difference. Is like, if we're going to be our own judge, if we're going to be our own critic, we have to be a judge and a critic that's smart and wise and compassionate and knows a way to communicate with ourselves where we leave that room and space to grow and learn. So anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really cool metaphor, and I'm going to carry that with me. It's
Me
just,
too.
that idea of having a smiling judge and maybe redefining what a judge is, and
Mm-hmm.
you can make them be however you want them to be. And I love that. And I think too, just like, this is a great reminder for me: surrender the results, do the work, be prepared, surrender the results. It's all
Mm-hmm.
good. And I think that that's just, I remember that was the key component that made that performance so meaningful to me. It wasn't that I performed well, it was that I actually was good with whatever happened on
Yeah.
the stage, like, actually. And I know that there's been lots of times where I say that I'm actually good with it and I'm not, but I
Yeah.
actually was like, I'm good with anything that happens, because I know that at this point I just have to show up and give it all I got, and that it
Yeah.
needs to be enough for me. And I knew before I played a single note that it was enough for me. And so I
That's
think
awesome.
that that's just something, yeah, that I want to try to carry with myself, because you have these glimpses, right, of what that feels
Yes.
like. So yeah,
Yeah.
great
Definitely. Well,
conversation.
thanks
I
for
love it.
sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be curious if, those of you that are listening, if you want to share with us what your thoughts are on performances, or your first performance or a recent one that you can think of. We would love to hear from you if you want to email us or find us on social media. All the stuff is in the show notes. Thanks so much for spending your time with us. We are so grateful to you. We will see you next time. Or, well, I
Bye,
guess
everyone.
you'll listen to us next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.